Messing around, getting right into it. We've got 3 slides here. First of all, we're looking at avoiding debts altogether with mitigation. First thing as a debt collector that we look for is a signed agreement. Now, this can be a contract, signed quote, whatever it is. This is so then we can legally on-charge fees like recovery costs, legal costs, interest, a big one, admin fees, and late fees. And all these fees are here to hopefully coax your debtor to pay up before having to take action against them. Let's say I'm charging a $5,000 invoice with an extra 3,000 on top of these extra costs. As a debtor, I would more likely pay now rather than having to pay 3,000 down the track after reviewing a pretty Loctite signed agreement. Sadly, if you don't have no signature, as a collector, I can't legally on charge a lot of these extra costs, whether you have attempted to or not. The law is it needs to be in writing, signed. Um, there is a few grey areas, such as quotes that have been accepted and with the terms on it and the job carried out. However, until a judge looks at it, it's not something that we can enforce or anyone for that matter. So signed contracts are a massive one to start off with. Example of terms, including all the extra costs I've just mentioned. Things such as a director's guarantee is fantastic. If you don't know what that is a clause in your contract which makes the director liable for your invoice if their company goes under. Especially in the wake of COVID, where we've had an incredible amount of businesses go under. I've seen clients lose all their, well, I suppose they haven't had any chance to recover any of the funds. Once a company's liquidating, I can't do anything about it. Can't do anything about it. The process has to go through. So if you want to make sure that no matter what, you're going to get paid, especially if you know that there's financial hardship there, make sure there's a signed director's guarantee. There's another one. Let's say you've got on your contract 1, 2, 3, 4, a list of things that what you can go through if there's defects on the job or any disputes. This is going to avoid situations where I've got a fair few of these recently where a debtor won't pay because of some very small um, issue with the job that's easily fixed. However, would say that most situations would dictate payment being first before any rectifications made to the job. It's always great to have this in writing because not everyone agrees with this, despite, let's say, entities like the QBCC would agree with this in most cases, and a lot of governing bodies would as well. So I would highly suggest have that there. I'll give you a quick example of one gone wrong. Had a building contract not properly filled out. This is when I first started debt collection, and there was a $20,000 bill left unpaid at the end of it. It was the final payment of this house build, and there was about the reason why it hadn't been paid was there's about 2 inch scratch on the window. It was very hard to see. It had to be within a meter to see it, but $20,000 was withheld because of it. Obviously, you can tell there's probably a lot more to it than that. There's just a lot of emotions involved, which ended up in a 2.5 year battle at court, which was an absolute nightmare for all parties involved, including me. But we got there in the end. But look, we want to avoid avoid that at every chance we have. So we've got a full downloadable list of items that we'd like to put into your contracts, into any sort of agreements you have. You're very welcome to pick and choose what you like, what you don't like, especially since it's not legal advice. I'm not a lawyer. The team's not lawyers. We'd highly suggest that you get your lawyer to have a look at whatever terms that you want to add to make sure it works specifically for your business, not because this is just a general list of things that we would hope to see as a debt collector in the best case scenario. Anyway, moving on. Follow-up process. When you send out an invoice, it's important to make sure you have a consistent process moving forward, whether that's emails, calls, texts, whatever it is, calling up your debtor, their dog, whatever it is. It needs to be consistent. If they, going along with the dog analogy, if you give them too long a leash, if they were going to run at the start, it's going to give them no excuse not to. They know they're going to get away with it. Um, let's say maybe around 35% of our debts that come to us are from people who have been getting away without paying for up to 2 years of just consistent promises that they're going to do something. They're going to make a payment towards it. 2 years, haven't made a single payment. It's a bunch of rubbish. So don't bluff with your consistent follow-ups. If you say you're going to go to court or say you're going to go to a debt collector, say you're going to rock up to the house with the bikies, do it. not the bikie thing. Please don't do that. We're not allowed to do that anymore. Not allowed to do that. Probably weren't allowed to do that back then either. But don't bluff, because if you fail to keep the little promises when it comes to the big things, especially saying like going to debt collectors, they're not going to believe you, and it's just going to keep going on and on. And if you do end up, say you do need help from us as debt collectors, it's going to work really well going into our service, because that's the whole basis of our process is we say we're going to do something and then we do it. And we build up until the big legal actions, which we'll get to at some point in this video. So consistency, don't bluff, do it. Be a person of action. Final demand. At the end of your follow-up process, you are super welcome to mention us, CC me in, anything to do to give a bit more authority and presence to your final demands, especially if you haven't been bluffing and you've actually done what you've said you're going to do. This is going to give a lot more bang for your buck when you actually send this last demand through. They're going to see, look, they have obviously been engaged or know something about Creditormate or whoever. You can use another debt collector if they allow you to do that. But you've obviously been talking with them and you're not bluffing, you're actually going to do something. With this final demand, you can also add in things, especially if you've signed your contract, add in things such as all recovery fees going to be added to this, interest, all these extra costs. This is where you can really push home the consequences that they're going to receive if they don't pay up before having to engage us or someone else. So look, this final demand is what in most consults I'll have with clients. I'll suggest this, and this is where we get the most action prior to debt collection. I would say roughly 40% of my consultations don't end up being a client because of this. So hey, this is what we're here for. We're here to make sure that you can recover your own debts and don't have to pay us to do that. So it's fantastic stuff. Options. So debt collection is obviously one option that you do have if you do need to, I suppose, give your debtor a kick up the backside. In the past, and what your mind might be at is there's only going to court to sue them or rocking up their doorstep and placing all the threats in the world. Um, again, can't. That's probably the stereotype for a debt collector. However, there's a lot more options that we have, and there's a time and place for court. I'm not saying that court's bad, but it can waste a lot of time, effort, and money, and it can be a very stressful process depending what you do. Court's definitely not my first choice. So for debt collection, for example, it's actually the last thing that I ever think about with court. We're always thinking about what options we have moving forward, and you should too, and hopefully this will help with that. But it is a last ditch effort. We want to do everything we can to avoid the 1 to 2 year wait to get some sort of answer from court and the money that it costs. So not our first choice. One of our first protocols for taking some real action against the debtor is credit files. For a business, it's incredibly powerful to be able to do this. Even for the individual, it can be incredibly powerful depending on the situation. Um, so the first thing that we would do is called a mercantile inquiry. Basically puts on their credit file that they've got debt collectors after them for X amount of money. I personally use the credit bureau Equifax. I find them the most thorough for what we need to do as debt collectors. However, I also do use one at the bottom there. That's Creditor Watch. It is probably the simplest, most straightforward, nice, simplest, most straightforward bureau to use, and I definitely recommend that to any business that wants to get a little bit more insight on their business, other businesses. Um, Even for you, say you can end up working with us for debt collection activities, I might even look at your file to get a bit more information on you and your business to make sure that we're acting the best in your best interest. But it also helps me chase up debtors and find, even simple things like finding the director of a company and getting an address for them so then I can send them mail if need be. Creditor Watch can do lots of things like that, so highly recommend that. But look, credit files, going back to that in general, any mark on a credit file can stop a business or an individual, let's say, take out a loan, getting any certain assistances from other lenders. Let's say, for me, again, as I said before, I will sometimes look at our clients to have a little bit of look at what else is going on there. And if I was to work, say I was trying to work with someone, if let's say I was a timber supplier, and I'm wanting to work with a new builder. If I saw in his file that there was a that he had issues, debt collectors after him, there's no way I would want to work with him. I would never give him credit anyway. So credit files can be quite a powerful thing, and we find that, say we put a mercantile inquiry in a file, I've had up to 2 years later someone come back to me, some financial help from a debtor come back to me and say, hey, look, we want to get this paid right now because we're trying to get a loan to get him out of the situation. So this can be very powerful. Credit defaults are even, I'd say, they have a little bit more bang for the buck. Not that can be free depending on what sort of plans you're on, but credit default will do a lot more than a mercantile inquiry. This is more of a direct mark that you can do yourself. You don't need us to do this. Creditor Watch, for example, has the power to do this. You can mark that they haven't paid you as long as I think it's over $100 and it's over 2 weeks old. You've got an invoice there. You can mark a default in their file, and that stays there for 5 years. That cannot be removed. So with mercantile inquiry, these marks cannot be removed unless there was a egregious mistake in actually marking them. If they do pay, you can mark the credit default as settled, but it still sits in their file. So this is definitely something that you can use in your own follow-ups, as we said in the first step. Something that you can use in your own follow-ups to make sure you get payment prior to having to take some sort of action. Anyway, I'll check out Creditor Watch. It's a good thing. Yes, I'm Creditormate. They're Creditor Watch. No affiliation. It's just a really good program. All right, legal avenues. This is all the good stuff for the options. A statutory demand is one of my favorite things I ever found when beginning debt collection. It is one of the most amazing things and tools that you can use to get a company to pay you. Not for the faint of heart. It's not for the small sort of debts. This is for the larger ones. Statutory demand, if you don't know, is basically a legal letter goes to the debtor company, says if you're not going to pay your debt within 21 days, we're gonna have the opportunity to liquidate you. It's a big scary letter, and it is super cheap, absolutely super cheap. Let's say for a $50,000 debt, you're looking at $600 to $800. That much money to recover $50,000 is it's absolutely nothing. So that the debt just has to be over $4,000. I love this thumb that keeps popping up. Whatever. It has to be over $4,000, and the really important one is there has to be no disputes. If there's a dispute with when you lodge a statutory demand, there's a high likelihood that the debtor can dispute this, and then the matter has to go to court. Can cost you a lot of money, so there's a little bit of risk there. And then following the statutory demand, if they don't pay within the 21 days, you've got 3 months to wind them up. That can be quite costly. That's looking at 7 to 10 grand, depending on the situation. Could be wrong. Things change. Circumstances are very different, but you're looking in roughly that area. Um, Again, I've gone through that process many a time. I've probably gone to wind up, let's say, 40 or so companies. Only about five of them we did wind up as a result of non-payment. The rest of them found some sort of plan to pay us off, which was fantastic. So statutory demands can be very good. Again, we always lodge them with the intention to get payment prior to the end of the 21 days or within that 3 month period. We don't want to wind up companies. We want people to keep working. We want people to keep the roof over their heads, but we want you paid more. So that's a very powerful, amazing little thing that we can do. Now, other things regarding court is there's actually other things, other avenues called examination and enforcement hearing. This will usually be done after you've gotten a court judgment and the other side hasn't paid. That's the other problem with court. Like it's all well and good to get a judgment, but doesn't mean they're going to pay. So examination enforcement hearings are either finding ways to make sure we can get money from the debtor in some way, shape, or form, the respondent, I should say, or an examination hearing is more looking at their funds to make sure to force them to do some sort of payment agreement. And this can look like a garnishee of wages, repo or repo of goods. So if you ever go down that court route, I highly recommend talking to someone first, whether it's a tribunal or local court or magistrates. Talk to someone who knows what they're doing first. Feel free to give me a buzz, so then you know what you're actually in for, because you could be paying $1,000 to go to, let's say, QCAT, but you might have to pay another $1,200 afterwards to get enforced, and it ends up being a lot longer a process. So talk to someone first, please, please, please. Lastly, there's other avenues you can go down. I don't know if I have the other one here as well. Oh, okay, sure. We've got government bodies, so let's say there's anything to do with wages, super, um, any other leave entitlements. First things first, like going to the ATO and other bodies like that, and fair trading. Big plus. I've had a client in 2022 who he was owed a fair bit of money from wages, super, and all the rest. This was done from 2019, and he had been promised multiple times that he would be paid this amount. He had a coffee with the debtor. They promised things and verbally, but not in writing. The debtor ended up phoenixing the company twice, well, somehow legally doing it. It wasn't very legal in our eyes. But they basically sold off the company a few times and feigned ignorance when it came to getting this money back. Although our client did get back the wages, they did not get the super or any of the leave. If they had acted a bit sooner, they could have actually contacted the relevant government bodies and got the government to pay their super. The leave, I can't remember off the top of my head what happened with that one, but I know that they missed out on quite a bit of money because of that. So it is what it is. Moving fast and going to these avenues are a must if you want to get the most out of your unpaid invoices. Other third parties, again, if you're a builder, you'll be well aware of the QBCC for Queensland and the DBDRV for Victoria. And obviously, fair trading is probably all New South Wales. I'm sorry, all you New South Wales people. Sometimes your system's a little bit wacky. Up in Queensland, it's a bit more straightforward. So look. At the end of everything, if we're still having disputes and that, we always say, look, we can go QBCC if you want. If you're going through to court, 100% go to QBCC. You have to before you get any sort of judgments from the court. These avenues can be great to settle the disputes. However, again, there's a lot of times where they can be quite useless as well. Which, if you ever have a chat to me, you'll hear all about that. I've had lots of different dealings with them. Some amazing, some absolutely rubbish. So look, I'll always recommend go through them, see what other options you do have. So then you don't miss something that was either for free or quicker, other than just going straight to court, waiting 10 months, 12 months, 18 months, and getting a subpar result. Try everything else first. Last slide. We're doing well. Debt collection. This is us. So costs. Charge to a debtor is mitigation points if mitigation points are followed. Lovely little typo there. So look, as I said in the first slide, if you have the right signage, the right terms in your contracts, our debt collection is free. We on charge our costs to your debtor. As you'll see, yes, it's a no fee service usually, and what we do is we pull out our percentage with whatever payment comes in. Let's say $100 comes in, we take $14 off that, you get the rest of it. When it comes to our fees being charged to a debtor, we're not chasing $5,000. We're chasing $7,800. We're chasing the extra amount there to make sure that you are, man, brain's failing. Want to make sure that you get paid back for what you've spent on our services, on legal costs, on interest, all that jazz. Want to make sure you're paid. So it's simply, if you want to have free debt collection, have someone following it up on your behalf without having to put the stress and the time in yourself. Get a signed contract, send it to us. We do it all for free. That's how that works, and it's brilliant. And it's amazing how little people actually have that done. Again, I don't want to be charging you. Nice. I don't want to be charging you for chasing up your own money. I really think that debtors should be doing that. So the benefits of that, obviously, it's out of your hands. A lot of the, I'll say 99, 100%, 99 to 100% of our debts, it's all principal based from both sides. You're here not because you really need the money, but because of the principle of the matter. And we act in that way as well. I'm chasing something till the cows come home because of principle. I don't like seeing you get ripped off. I don't like seeing people lie. I hate lies, and I'm a debt collector. Here we go. So look, we get it out of your hands, so at least the emotions out of it, and you know that we're acting on your behalf in your best interest because we're acting for the principle of it as well. And if that's not enough for you, hey, we don't get paid till you get paid. So There you go. No accumulation of costs over time. If you have your bookkeeper and accountant wasting time on this week in, week out for the next 8 months to a year, that's your choice. That's all good. However, I'd rather someone else do it for free for me. Seems pretty straightforward. Lawyers. In this job, there is, again, I'm throwing out so many percentages at the moment, 15 to 20% of cases, I'll be speaking to a lawyer. This is more the bigger cases, obviously. We collect anything from under 1,000 to, I don't know, I don't know what the biggest one is, probably upwards of 250,000. There's always going to be lawyers involved, and they always try and trip you up and try and turn your way. We talk to lawyers all the time. We're good at it. We know what we're doing. If you don't want to do that, we do that for you, and we don't charge any extra costs. It's part of our no win, no fee policy. We do have lawyers on the team that we contact for certain things, but usually they only get involved for setting out those certain, like the legal letters I mentioned for the statutory demand and other court processes. So look, if you want someone to talk to your lawyers on the no and no fee sort of basis, that's what we're here for. And also, we have lawyers at our disposal as well. Missing persons. If someone goes AWOL, if you've got a debtor that's done a runner, what do you do? I'd be welcome to hear any suggestions because the only thing that we have is skip tracing, missing person searches, not only just scouring the internet for any sort of digital footprint anywhere, but looking for old addresses, old emails, phone numbers, and seeing what connections they have. Do they have any relatives living at that house? What did the neighbors say? When did they move out? Who else has used that email in the past? What we do with these skip traces is we find any and every connection that this debtor has had with any other person, and we contact that person if needed. If we can't find new details for your debtor, we will be finding new details for people that they do know, or mostly people that they've got some sort of relationship with. For example, let's say I'm chasing up a Sam Smith, and I find at times I found a phone number from an old girlfriend through the skip tracing software. They've lived in an address together. Contacted her. She said, "Look, here's his new number." There I go. I've got a contact there. Not something that you can always do if you don't know the people, but that's what we can do. We've got skip tracing software, all fantastic. Helps us find those people trying to do a runner. What do we need? Not much at all. I have chased up a debt where actually it was Sam and a phone number. That was it. And the phone number was no longer working. Sadly for that case, did not collect that one. It was only $250, but still, not even our skip tracing software could find this Sam. There's obviously lots of Sams in Australia. But look, as I've got here on the slide, the more points that you have of information and contact that you have, the better. If you have an invoice, fantastic. If you have a quote, fantastic. If you have a contract, fantastic. If you have a phone number, if you have emails, if you have all the names and the ACN, the ABN, whatever, if you have everything, it's fantastic, and that will help us do our job better. It'll help us get to the result faster. However, if you don't have anything, if you've got very little information, we will work on that as well. Just means there might be a slight delay depending on our contact points and how well they receive the information. Especially if there's a dispute, history is a plus. If I don't know the background of a dispute, it makes it quite a slow process to start off with. What I mean by that is most calls I will look to get a payment within the first day or two of getting started. However, if there's a dispute involved, and I don't know about that, it's going to be incredibly hard to collect because that first call I'm listening to a dispute. I'm not asking for payment. I'm listening to a dispute. Yes, it's possible still. It does happen quite a bit where I'll go, that's all well and good. What can we pay? What's the most you can pay today? But it's a hit and miss because they know that I haven't got all the information. And they say, look, you need to go talk to your client and get some more information about what's going on because you have no clue, buddy. Um, so yeah, more history, all the history and more information is a plus. It just helps us move your case faster. And sorry, one more thing with that one is the more that you give me, the less I have to keep coming back to you. My aim for every debt is for you to for the online submission to come through to my computer, have a look at it, and within a week, if not a few days, you've got payment in your account, without any other contact from me saying, other than me saying, I've got the money, here you go. If we don't have the history, if we've got very little information, it might mean I'm contacting you once, two, three times a week to try and get some more information so I can actually successfully get this debt for you. So the more you can give, the better, depending on the situation. Last thing, statute of limitations. If you don't know this, I'll just say for the sake of this video, most states are going to have a 6 year statute of limitations. This means if your debt is over 6 years old, we can't chase it. I can politely ask, but it's out of the goodness of your debtor's heart to actually make some sort of payment towards it, because in the eyes of the law, that debt no longer exists. So statute of limitations, if you have had someone admitting to the debt in writing, or they've had a payment, or actually, I should word that a bit better. The statute starts, so the 6 years starts from either the last admission to payment, to make a payment, or admission to the debt, the invoice date, or the last payment actually made. So if it's within 6 years of that last contact, we can still chase it. Otherwise, what I have done in the past for a few clients, I was trying to do a favor for. I made a call. I attempted to get something in writing from the debtor to say, "Hey, look, I'm going to pay this." One of them I was successful with. They said, "Yep, sure. No, I still know I owe this." So they had a really good heart. They sent me back an email writing saying, "Yes, I owe this, and I'm still willing to pay it." Wonderful. 6 years. Let's go. We've got another 6 years to collect this debt. The others were a failure because, for obvious reasons, they knew the debt was no longer it was actually it wasn't legit anymore. But also they knew after 6 years, our client wasn't going to chase us up. They've waited 6 years. Here we are. The other thing that extends the statute of limitations would be any court rulings. This means you've got 12 years to chase up a debt. And it's very surprising how many people have done the first step of court. They've gone to, say, QCAT, BCAT, NCAT, whatever, or they've even gone to local magistrates court. They've got a ruling, but they haven't followed it up, and it's just been sitting there, and it's getting 6 years, 9 years, 10 years on, and they still haven't done anything about that. You can still get that money. You can still go back to a examination enforcement hearing and get that money back. So statute of limitations, important to know if you're going for those older debts. And look, if your debts are old, I'm assuming you haven't followed it up for either cost reasons or because it was too much to handle. There's too much principle involved, or yeah, or emotion involved, and yeah, you just don't want to continue on with it. It's too much stress. So look, I'll take a breather, a quick cup of tea, quick sip of the cup of tea. My goodness. But look, all in all, everything here, from mitigation to the different options you have to our services, we want to make sure that you have the best chance to recover your money, whether it's with or without us, before or after us. So all I can suggest is, one, download the on the below link, download the different terms that we do have that you can have a look at. See if your current contracts match that, and then also get a legal professional to have a look at that and see if you want to add any of those in. Highly recommend the director's guarantee and adding any extra costs in, especially our recovery costs. Again, if you're working with us, I don't want to be charging you for it. Second thing, know your options. If you do have a spicy situation and you want to have it looked at, give me a call. We don't charge for calls. If you want help, I'll talk to you for half an hour about what we can do or what you can do, sorry, to help yourself out. I'll let you know if you have the options to do a statutory demand. If you have, what you should do. Let's say you've got someone who says they're financially unable to pay anything, how to make sure they can get a payment agreement sorted with you. I'm going to tell you what I would do as your debt collector, and you can do that instead of me. We're here only if you don't want to do it. That's what our service is. Otherwise, we're just here to help make sure that you don't lose out your money. You're not cheated. Last thing is with debt collection. Last one. Look, it's a super simple process. It takes 2 minutes to lodge a debt with us. It's a no and no fee commission structure. Gosh, I'll quickly say it here. Why not? Over 10 grand, we're charging 14%. If it's between 6 and 10 grand, it's going to be 18%. 1 to 6 grand, it's going to be 23%. And then obviously everything under 1,000 is going to be 33%. Anything under $150 is going to be a flat fee. So look, that's there for you to use. All I can say is it's super simple to get started, super simple to just let us do our thing, and super simple to get that money back into your account. So give me a buzz if you're not sure, if you want to have a chat about any of these things, a bit more in depth, let's do that. Otherwise, see you later. Thanks for listening. Have a good one. and stop recording somewhere up here.